All right, so I'm sitting here with my good friend Ronny Quiroz. Known you for a long time, dude.
Yeah, man.
A long time. But I don't think the people watching this know you as well as I do.
Amen.
So I want to give them an opportunity to. What do you say?
Let's do it, man.
Dude, why don't you just tell us a little bit about where you're from? Tell me a little bit of like a snapshot of your life.
All right, man. Well, I was born in Dominican Republic, and I was there till about 5 years old. And then my dad came over to New York. He came to New York, started working in a factory, and he was able to, send for me and my mom and my sister, and we all moved to New York with him. So pretty much I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and it was a rough life.
How rough?
Pretty rough, man. My dad, once we got to New York, my dad was not a very good person at the time. He was an alcoholic, and he pretty much beat my mom. Pretty much came home drunk. They argued about money all the time, and it just wasn't a good scene for kids growing up.
So what did that cause you to turn to?
That brought me straight into the street.
Yeah.
It brought me.
What about the streets attracted you?
The money, the drugs. I wanted to be like my friends. I wanted to have what they had. I wanted to feel empowered, and it was all that they were offering. They wanted to teach me all of that.
Right. So did you like get into a lot of trouble as a young guy?
Absolutely, man. I was involved in a bunch of gangs. I was involved in womanizing. I was involved in fights and all kind of stuff that led me to jail, that led me to, cause pain to my mom.
Right.
My mom recently confessed to me that she used to not sleep when I was out in the streets. That just broke me down, man.
Right, because she just knew you were out there getting in trouble and stuff.
Yeah.
So is that part of what brought you down to Florida originally when you came down?
No. So originally I met my wife. Her name is Jasmine. And I met her I was working construction, and she was cooking dinner for construction workers. She was cooking lunch actually for construction workers.
Just being like nice or trying to find a man? Like what was it?
Well, no, she was trying to make a living.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was cooking out of her house.
Nice.
And I went and I tried the food, man. They say, a way to a man's heart is his belly. You know what I mean? So I tried her food, and she was a beautiful girl. I immediately fell in love with her.
So she got those hooks in deep.
Yeah.
And then she grabbed you by the nose.
Yeah.
With the food smell.
Absolutely.
And then drug you to Florida.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. So what happened there? Like you guys came down here to get away or just start a new life? What did that look like?
So what ended up happening was right before we came to Florida, I got into a big fight that almost put me in jail for a long time. So literally, I put a guy in the hospital, and he had to get plastic surgery and all of this crazy stuff. They wanted to, lock me up. And through I didn't know God at the time, but now I know that it's through His grace and mercy that He gave me a second chance there. And the guy never showed up to court, and I was able to get away with that, for that meantime.
Right. And so then you guys came down here?
Yeah, so we send our kids. I have 2 step-kids. One named Jotzi, and one of them is named Anthony. They're older now, and we sent them here when they were younger to start school first. And then me and my wife worked in a restaurant that was owned by her father-in-law. By her stepfather. And then we saved some money, and then we came out here, spent some time with him and his wife, and then we eventually got our own place.
Cool. So what caused you to turn to Christ? Because you came from a wild background, like you got into a lot of trouble. And I remember that first time when you came in the church with your wife. I remember how broken you were. Explain the story of what brought you to that moment where you came. We're actually in this building, just maybe 50 feet from where we're sitting right now. And you came and you were broken down. What got you to that point?
So I didn't want anything to do with Christ. I was in the street. I came here to better my life, but it ended up being worse for me.
Right.
I got with the wrong crowds again. I started doing more drugs, started being involved in stupidity, and it led to me, not knowing Christ at all, you know, and wanting to do my own will for my life. So what happened was I was working at a pawn shop, and my wife was the manager. And so
a little bit of favoritism going on there.
Yeah, well, we started in different stores, and then they gave her her own store, so they told me to go help her.
Nice.
You know, so because I was a good worker and stuff, so they wanted to build up the company.
Right.
And what ended up happening is that we were so caught up in drugs. We were doing, you know, ecstasy. I mean, I'm talking about 8 pills a day. You know, between, you know, her and me, we were just going crazy with the drugs. You know, we were neglecting our kids. We were just bad parents, man. Bad parents. And so what happened was it got to be such a big of an addiction that my wife started stealing money from the company. And I had no clue about it. She never told me. I never asked. I didn't care where the money was coming from for the drugs. I just wanted the drugs.
Right.
So she ended up stealing a bunch of money from the company. And then she came to me one day and she looked at me in the eyes and said, I have to confess something to you.
Yeah.
And she said, listen, I've been stealing from the company.
Right.
And something in me is telling me to confess.
Yeah.
And I said, are you crazy? Like, you're gonna confess this and you're gonna go to jail.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen, so no. I told her, don't do that.
Right.
She says, well, I cannot go against this feeling that I'm feeling.
Right.
No, now, keep in mind, she didn't know Christ either.
Yeah.
Okay? It's crazy because we never even heard the name Christ in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
No one ever told me about Christ, that he died for me, that he did all of this,
Right.
you know? So when she started telling me about these feelings, I didn't understand them.
Right.
You know, so I told her, I encouraged her not to do it. And then she said she was still going to go through with it. And she didn't care about jail time. She didn't care about none of it. She wanted to release that pressure from herself.